The top stories tonight in Y News. Malacanang plans to conduct an extensive probe into the decision to import 300,000 metric tons of sugar made by regulators without President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s approval.
A bill that seeks to prohibit the use of cell phones during classes has been filed in Congress.
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is dropping its recommended COVID-19 restrictions, including quarantine and social distancing.
Johnson & Johnson will stop selling its talc-based baby powder globally in 2023.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, the 12th of August, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UN TV News and Rescue social media accounts. I am Harleen Delgado.
First in the news, ahead of the start of classes, the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, released new suggested retail prices for school supplies. Janice Inhente reports why.
To help parents and students compare the prices of school supplies in stores, the Department of Trade and Industry published a revised and more detailed suggested retail prices, or SRP, for school supplies. DTI includes brand, size and quantity, number of leaves for notebooks and pad papers, and quality apart from the specification. Based on the new SRP, 80 leaves of writing and composition cost 17.50 to 34.75 pesos for notebooks, while a spiral notebook starts at 17.50 to 36.75 pesos. A yarn notebook starts at 19.80 to 27.75 pesos. The SRP for 80-page Econoband pad paper for grades 1 to 4 ranges from 14 to 23.30 pesos, while intermediate paper costs from 22.50 to 30 pesos. For pencils, the SRP of 3 to 4 pack sets ranges from 18 to 27 pesos depending on the hardness. Ball pens are priced from 4.75 to 19 pesos, while a 3-piece pack set of ball pens is priced from 16 to 32 pesos. Meanwhile, some vendors, parents, and students reported an increase in the price of school supplies.
Kasi ngayong biglang sipa nung kick out ng alam na pasukan na 22 na biglang nagsipag mahal. Halos mga 20 pesos or 50 pesos yung tinaas. Tulad ng notebook, dati 10 piso lang, 15 pesos, 20 pesos ang peraso. Ngayon,
yung puhunan namin noon, ngayon doble na sa mahal ng notebook. Basic needs na lang ang mga itinitinda namin, hindi na kagaya dati. Meron kayong mga magagandang pencil case, may mga sa hirap ng buhay, baka hindi na rin mag-click. Kaya yung mga basic needs na lang talaga, notebook, ballpen, papel, yan na lang ang mga itinitinda namin.
Konti lang ginawa ng mga factory. Magsana yung stock lang yung pinauubos din nila. Hindi, umorder ka ng 20 kahon, bibigay lang sa'yo 5. Kasi hati-hati nila sa mga customer din. Sayang, kasi imbis na bebenta ka maganda kung may rami kang stock.
DTI says it has issued new suggested retail prices bulletins on school supplies, taking into account increased prices in raw materials and distribution costs. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The National Bureau of Investigation has received the examined documents relating to the purchase of the Department of Education's laptops from the procurement service of the Department of Budget and Management. Meanwhile, the joint venture that provided the computers is prepared to face the deal's investigation. Rosalie Cos reports.
The documents related to the procurement of the Department of Education's laptops, which were subject of Commission on Audit findings, were transferred today by the Procurement Service of the Department of Budget and Management, or PSDBM, to the National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI. PSDBM Executive Director Ed Santiago stated in a statement that the NBI is a highly capable investigation authority to take over the case in order to ensure that the investigation would be fair, unbiased, and independent. Meanwhile, the joint venture between SunWest Construction and Development Corporation and LDLA Marketing and Trading Incorporated, which provided 39,583 units of laptops to DepEd, stated that they are prepared to face any investigation. They said the laptops that DepEd received met all the technical requirements imposed by the government as they defended the units they delivered. They added that the laptop sets were competitively priced, accounting for the price of the unit, peripheral cost, software, commercial-grade durability, a thorough 36-month warranty, and technical support. The joint venture group stated that they are prepared to take part in any proceedings where they will have the chance to demonstrate that their product is trustworthy and fit for its intended use. DepEd has received an audit observation memorandum from the Commission on Audit for buying laptops worth 2.4 billion pesos that were reportedly expensive for an entry-level type laptop and also outdated. State auditors said the purchase adversely decreased the number of intended beneficiaries from 68,500 to 39,583 public school teachers. Meanwhile, DepEd stated that it welcomes inquiries from Congress on the matter. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, there is an uptrend in the number of admissions in the intensive care unit according to the Department of Health. From 26%, the ICU utilization rate rose to 28%. There is also an increase in the number of critical and severe cases based on the July records. However, the health department said the country still remains at low risk. As of August 10, there are 871 severe and critical cases, which is 9.27% of the total admissions. Majority of the admissions are asymptomatic and mild COVID-19 cases.
The use of antigen tests for screening employees going to their workplace is not recommended by the Department of Health. JP Nunez tells us why.
The Department of Health states that the agency never directed to conduct antigen tests on asymptomatic individuals. Maria Rosario Vergere, health officer in charge, said this even though private companies made it a practice to use antigen tests to screen employees for COVID-19 in their workplaces. DOH said it is not recommended to use antigen tests for asymptomatic patients because it may result in a false negative result.
Kaya hindi po natin siya nire-recommenda na magamit for screening asymptomatics kasi nasasayang po ang resources, nagkakaroon din tayo ng nami-mislead tayo sa ating pong mga ginagawang protocols at pagmamanage sa ating mga pasyente.
However, the department's protocol for antigen tests still states that if a person tests positive for COVID-19, that result is regarded as positive. Health screenings of employees' symptoms may still be a useful strategy according to the health department.
Maaari naman po tayong gumawa ng screening, no? The health screening is already enough for our employees. We do not need to subject them to antigen testing, which can give us false results.
DOH also said that it may over time drop some COVID-19 protocols such as quarantine for those exposed to COVID-19 patients and physical distancing. The policy suits the goal of the health department's mind shift by living with the coronavirus campaign. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The top public health agency in the United States is dropping its recommended COVID-19 restrictions, including quarantine and social distancing. Joselito Liquido will tell us why live. Yes, Joselito?
Good evening, Elsie. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention loosened its COVID-19 guidelines Thursday, stating that Americans do not need quarantine themselves anymore if they come into close contact with an infected individual. The agency also stated that the social distancing rule of at least 6 feet away from others will no longer be required. According to the agency officials, the adjustments are motivated by the realization that 95% of Americans aged 16 and older have developed some level of immunity either via vaccinations or infections. With schools resuming this fall, one of the biggest change is that routine daily testing or the test to stay recommendation on students will no longer be required. Hence, some districts across the U.S. have now promised a return to the pre-pandemic arrangements in schools. Wearing of masks and weekly COVID-19 tests will also not be necessary in most districts and in public schools in Los Angeles. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, for that live report. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said the continent of 1.3 billion people still does not have a single dose of the monkeypox vaccine, but very advanced discussions are underway with at least 2 partners. Africa CDC Acting Director Ahmed Ogwell said that all available doses have been purchased by countries and that the partners are largely multilateral institutions and non-African governments. He said that a clinical trial for a monkeypox vaccine is now underway in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This 2-dose vaccine is considered the main medical weapon against the disease, but with limited availability. Gasoline prices in the United States of America fall under $4 for the first time since March 2022. Crude makes up more than half of the cost at the pump. Beverly Saison will tell us why.
Gasoline prices in the United States have been steadily falling throughout July and August. This after months of record high fuel prices. For the first time in more than 5 months, gas prices are below $4. However, experts said it is still too early to know if this will hold. The main reason for the fall is the decline in oil prices. Crude is the single largest factor, accounting for more than 50% of what is being paid at the pump. Some states have also suspended their gas taxes, which artificially pushes the price lower. Meanwhile, California remains the leader in terms of expensive gas prices, with an average of $5.384 per gallon. Texas, on the other hand, has moved to the top of the charts for cheap prices with an average of $3.493 per gallon. For the Biden administration, pump prices have become a major issue ahead of the upcoming midterm elections. U.S. President Joe Biden has repeatedly reiterated his administration is doing everything it can to ease the burden of the consumers. Beverly Saison, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
We'll share more global stories with you later, but for now, back to you, William.
Yes, thank you, Elsie.
Malacanang stated that the current inquiry into the recent improper signing of an order to import sugar may go farther. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
The ongoing investigation into the most recent unauthorized signing of a sugar importation may go much deeper than simply examining the resolution's issuance. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles said this in response to Senator Amy Marcos' statement that the Department of Agriculture could be manipulated by a syndicate.
I'm sure the President has already noted this. Wala lang po kaming ipapahayag pa sa ngayon tungkol sa mga plano because the investigation will probably cover a more extensive review than simply the resolution that was issued by the Sugar Regulatory Board.
The palace spokesperson stressed that heads will roll if a probe discovered that poor judgment led to the signing of the importation resolution, which she said the president, who heads the Sugar Regulatory Board, and the Department of Agriculture concurrently did not authorize.
Continuing po yung ating investigasyon. Ito na po yung response. We laud, of course, Senator Amy, her concern over this. Tama naman po siya. But we'll probably go beyond that. Probably, if there are sufficient findings, then heads will roll.
The press secretary claims that President Marcos is only awaiting the investigation's findings before making a final decision. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, 2 persons of interest in the Umol Slay case are currently the subject of an investigation by the Basilan Police. The suspects were seen on CCTV footage as they carried out the crime. Leia Ilagan filed this report.
The Basilan Police have access to the CCTV footage of Rolando Umol's death, a father of Doc Chow Tiao Umol, who was killed in Lamitan on July 29. Basilan Provincial Police Office Director, Police Colonel Pedro Martirez said the CCTV footage showed that the gunman is wearing a black hoodie jacket and a white t-shirt, while the driver of the motorcycle is wearing a brown hoodie jacket.
Yun nga ang pinapakita natin sa mga witnesses kung prior to the incident or kung kilala nila yung mga taong may gawa nun para sa ganun ay makuhanan na natin ng statement itong mga witnesses natin at kung meron na tayong mga pangalan para ma-file na natin yung naturang kaso.
In addition to the motorcycle, a pickup vehicle can also be seen in the CCTV footage.
Yun kasi yung nakita natin na after the incident, pumunta at inilagay ng gunman natin yung barrel doon sa may pick-up na naghiwalay sila then lumabas sa area.
In order to identify the owner of the aforementioned pick-up vehicle, the PNP Basilan is currently waiting for the result of the verification at the Land Transportation Office.
Walang plaka na nakabit during the time of incident. Pero merong mga ibang palatandaan na pwede nating matrace.
On July 29, Rolando Umol, a retired policeman and the father of Doc Chow Tiao Umol, was shot dead by 2 unidentified suspects. Doc Umol was the suspect in the shooting of the Purigays on July 24 at Ateneo de Manila University, where 3 people are dead and 2 more are injured. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Health, or DOH, assures that all personal protective equipment or PPE items that were distributed by the agency have passed quality standards. This comes after the Commission on Audit, or COA, flagged several contracts entered by the Procurement Service of the Department of Budget and Management, or PSDBM, for the purchase of PPE sets at the height of the pandemic due to lack of required safety documents. Health Officer in Charge, Maria Rosario Vergara, says all PPE items that came from the DOH went through proper processes and passed the standards of the agency and the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. According to the health official, they also received batches of PPE sets last year from PSDBM, where some items had to be rejected and were not distributed after it failed to pass quality standards upon inspection. Vergara confirms that a certificate of medical device notification, or CMDN, is one of the main requirements for PPEs before it can be used in the country. The health department adds they are now clarifying the issue with the PSDBM on what government agencies received the stocks of the PPE items that were said to be incompliant.
Hindi naman kami magbibigay sa ating mga implementing units ng mga kagamitan para sila ay maproteksyonan na hindi po dumaan dun sa quality and safety standards na ating tinutukoy. Humihingi kami ng clarification from PSDBM para malaman natin kung ano po itong mga stocks na ito.
In its 2021 annual audit report, the COA noted that 5 suppliers failed to submit the certificate despite being a requirement for PPE importers and manufacturers based on the circular released by the FDA in 2020. It added that the PSDBM did not exercise due diligence in procuring the PPE items and therefore cannot assure its client agencies of its safety, especially to health workers who are directly exposed to COVID-19. In its response to the findings, the PSDBM says they adopted the specifications provided by the World Health Organization and the DOH, which allowed the submission of equivalent foreign documents for imported PPEs. It says a CMDN is only required if the PPE items are to be commercially sold in the local market. The PSDBM adds they made the purchases in an emergency situation where the existing rules and regulations were very difficult to implement. But in a rejoinder, the audit team maintains that the importers and manufacturers are required to secure the certificate pursuant to the FDA directive.
Johnson & Johnson will finally end sale of their talcum-based baby powder globally in 2023 after first doing so in North America back in 2020. Marvi Delphine tells us why live. Marvi?
LC Johnson & Johnson announced the global discontinuation yesterday in a bid to better their portfolio after years of allegations surrounding the safety of talcum powder use. Moving forward, Johnson & Johnson decided to make a transition to a cornstarch-based baby powder, a product which is already being sold around the world. Throughout the years, Johnson & Johnson accumulated over 38,000 lawsuits against them after users of the product came forward claiming the talc-based powder caused cancer. The array of lawsuits led to the product being first discontinued in Canada and the United States back in 2020 as demand was also falling. Johnson & Johnson also established LTL Management, a subsidiary group last October to tackle the allegations. However, lost and filed for bankruptcy, facing $3.5 billion in verdicts and settlements. But as they announced the news, the company stood by their claim fiercely, stating that regulation approvals and testing on the product proved the talc-based powder to be safe. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you for that live report, Marvi Delphine. With more than 5 months since the start of Russia's invasion, the Russian army is now experiencing shortage of its manpower in Ukraine. Annie Mancilia will tell us why live. Yes, Annie?
Elsie, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine 5 months ago, some soldiers from the Russian army are wanting to leave the war zone. Conscript School Legal Aid Group lawyer Alexei Tavalov said that Russian soldiers are trying to quit the military, including new recruits, and those that have been serving for a long time. Reason being is that they have been deceived and did not want to be deployed in the war zone, while others are unable to continue due to exhaustion. About 150 soldiers were able to terminate their contracts. However, many of them have been sent to Russian-controlled detention centers and are unable to return home. To account for these losses, Russia had offered amnesty to prisoners who are willing to fight for the Russian army in Ukraine. It was initially offered to prisoners with law or military background, but later extended to all prisoners. In addition, Russia are also forming volunteer battalions with thousands of openings being posted on job websites and are also promoted on state televisions. Volunteers are promised monthly salaries ranging from $2,000 to $5,000 US plus cash bonuses once deployed to Ukraine. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Annie Mancilia, for that report. As Europe deals with record-breaking temperatures, a massive wildfire rages through southwest France. Jen Robles will give us the details live.
Jane? Elsie,
The extreme heat and strong winds have made it difficult for over 8,000 firefighters to put out the fire, and over 17,000 acres of forest have already been destroyed, according to officials. The fire, which is about 30 kilometers southeast of Bordeaux in France, destroyed some homes, forcing around 10,000 people to evacuate. Specialized aircraft dumping water and flame retardant are supporting them, but local authorities reported that the blaze remained out of control on Thursday despite all their attempts. Firefighting teams from Germany, Poland, Austria, and Romania are also expected to support the French responders, with President Emmanuel Macron making a remark on European solidarity. Last month, France experienced the driest month since 1961 after wildfires burned down 14,000 hectares across the same area before being contained. Elsie? Thank you for that live report, Jane Robles. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand. Good evening.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development will be using a new strategy in order to review qualified beneficiaries for the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, or 4Ps. According to DSWD Secretary Erwin Tulfo, the department is already coordinating with the heads of the cash assistance program in order to improve or streamline the list of beneficiaries. Secretary Tulfo already requested for the head of the 4Ps to submit their own list of beneficiaries who are no longer qualified for the program. This aims to uphold accuracy and ensure that everyone listed are truly qualified for the program.
A lawmaker has filed a bill seeking to ban use of cell phones during classes. Mavian Dog will tell us why.
Students will have difficulty focusing on their studies if they are using their phone and other gadgets during class. House Committee on Ways and Means Chairman Joey Salceda has filed House Bill number 662, which seeks to implement a cell phone ban in the school premises except for emergencies. This will cover all public and private kindergarten, elementary, and high school students. According to Salceda, technology and digital transformation have advantages. However, students will not be productive when they use it for learning.
Mukhang kailangan mas personalistic sa mga ganitong bagay. Kaya naman siguro wala masyadong content na na-trust. Remember that learning is transfer of knowledge. Oh, yes. So how can you transfer knowledge digitally? Siguro ang digital for higher ed.
Parents say they would also prefer their children not using their phones in schools.
Pag may cellphone ng bata sa loob ng classroom, wala silang matututunan. So dapat pag nasa loob ng school, sa teacher, lang ang attention ng bata. Dahil dun sila makakakuha ng lecture. Hindi sa cellphone. Kasi sa cellphone may mga pa dun na makukuha mga bata.
Pabor naman po ako sa bawal muna ang cellphone para makapag-focus yung mga bata sa school, sa study nila. Ibigay na lang ulit yung cellphone pagka labasan na, ganun. Para hindi lang maistorbo.
According to Salceda, once signed into law, there will be depository offices where students will surrender their phones. The school management will also decide on the appropriate punishment for anyone who will violate the cell phone ban. Mavian Dog, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And it is almost the opening of school, and children will begin learning academic stuff and join extra activities such as sports that will help instill moral values in youth. Tennis, for one, is a sport that begins with love, technically and morally. But what things can young people learn from tennis? Nina Armilio has the story.
Young people nowadays seem to get too much distracted in life by vices and stuff that only ruin their path towards productivity. Violent video games, alcohol, illegal drugs that only put them in danger. Then there are those kids who choose to live a healthy and sporty lifestyle. Guided by their parents, they choose sports over vices, just like sisters Vanny and Tori. At their young ages, the discipline they learn in tennis training has become part of their daily grind.
On training days, I'd wake up at 4:30 a.m. to get ready for training at 5 a.m., which ends at 7 a.m. Start school at around 8 to 8:30. School ends at around 3. Sometimes I have training in the afternoon. I do extra schoolwork and sleep maybe at latest 11. I wake up at 4:30 usually to get ready for swimming at 5 a.m. It ends at 7 o'clock. So after that, I have school that usually ends at 2. Then I have tennis training after that.
And just like Vanny and Tori, their fellow young tennis athletes Jacob and GM have the same daily routine. They just make sure to balance school and training.
Gigising ng maaga, 5 a.m., 5 or 6, then magte-training ng 2 to 3 hours, then breakfast before school. Minsan mahirap, pero po, as long as na gusto mo yung ginagawa, lahat kakayanin po.
It's a really good sport. It's really fun. It might not be at first since, baka napilitan ka lang or something. But as time goes on, you will start to enjoy the sport more.
Meanwhile, as a parent and an athlete herself, Venice gives nothing but support to her 2 daughters, knowing that tennis has paved the way for Vanny and Tori to discover their potentials.
Sport, for me, is one of the best way to teach discipline to a child. I make sure that they are obedient kasi dapat, second parent nila ang coach when it comes to training. So they have to learn how to obey and listen to their coach.
Nice has this advice to her fellow parents who have kids that are into sports, arts, or other stuff that make them grow as individuals.
Support your child, push her to be the best, of course, but as a parent, you should also know that you have limits. You cannot force your child to do something that she or he doesn't want to. All you can do is just support and then provide.
And as the second parent of athletes on the court, tennis coaches eye the growth of the kids' athleticism while instilling discipline.
Yung teaching skills nila madedevelop, yung kids' playing skills madedevelop, and everyone will have a better understanding on how coaches and parenting and being a club by itself can help the kids and the tennis itself.
Ang kagandahan din po ng TTCP ay may objective po ito na mapalakas yung ating mga tenista sa Pilipinas, yung lalo yung ating mga pang-compete na team.
The young athletes have these pieces of advice for their fellow youth who wish to achieve their goals in the field that they choose.
Kahit ano mang gawin mo, try to remain focused, try to remain disciplined.
You won't achieve anything if there's no goal. Focus on improving yourself since you're the one to beat.
The best advice is always do your best. Siyempre, not only in the court, also sa life, lahat. Gagabayan tayo ni God kahit sa laro, sa tournament, sa practice.
Hesitate no more. Find that motivation to begin your journey. Choose the stuff that will help you grow as a person instead of vices that would ruin you. Start strong. Start now. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Our Kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
Before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 20, it says, "But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break, though nor steal. And those are the reasons behind the news, August 12, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Harleen Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.